Welcome to Angel Wings Productions.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. I'm Toby, your financial expert and news journalist, with a 40-year lens on the world's most critical stories and how they truly impact your bottom line. We will move beyond the headlines to the money, the engine that drives these events, before turning to my esteemed colleague, Janine Holcomb, for the latest in Los Angeles. Let's look at the biggest stories of the day, with a deep dive into the financial forces at play. World News and Financial Analysis. Top Financial Story 1. The continuing U.S. government shutdown and the data blackout. We are now in the third day of a U.S. federal government shutdown. And while the stock market seems to be shrugging it off with the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, and Dow all notching fresh records, the real danger lies in the information void. The financial engine. Key economic indicators, most critically today's much-anticipated jobs report, are simply not being released. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is silent. This lack of transparency means the Federal Reserve and investors are flying blind at a critical juncture for the U.S. economy. This is not a political problem for Wall Street. It's a data problem. And in finance, information is capital. How it affects the consumer. For the worker. Hundreds of thousands of federal civilian employees are furloughed with no immediate pay. While historical precedent suggests back pay is likely once the shutdown ends, for those living paycheck to paycheck, this is an immediate and catastrophic hit to household liquidity and confidence. This is where the ripple effect starts. For the investor, the delay in job and other economic data creates uncertainty. While the markets are currently buoyed by expectations of another Fed interest rate cut, a data vacuum can lead to volatility. Consumers who are invested in their retirement accounts, like 401 KEX, need to be prepared for potential market swings until that economic picture becomes clear again. Top Financial Story 2. The new wave of U.S. tariffs and accelerating consumer prices. The second major story driving the financial news today is a fresh series of new tariffs announced by the administration, targeting products from pharmaceuticals to heavy trucks. The financial engine. Tariffs are, simply put, a tax on imports, and this cost is almost always passed along to the consumer. This policy is accelerating the trend of inflation, particularly on durable goods. We are already seeing prices for things like furniture and, eventually, new vehicles pushed higher by these new import taxes. The Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation is showing that prices for durable goods are rising at a clip not seen since the height of the pandemic-era supply chain crunch. How it affects the consumer. The cost of living. We are seeing a consumer confidence index fall to its lowest level since April, with Americans citing prices and inflation as their top economic concern. Consumers are experiencing real disposable income growth thanks to a tight labor market, but they are spending it faster, and their savings rate is falling. This suggests households are buying now in anticipation of even higher prices later, which is a classic sign of inflation anxiety. The average family's purchasing power is being squeezed, turning a wage gain into a zero-sum battle against rising costs. The outlook for buying big-ticket items like cars has weakened, signaling real financial strain. Major world story. Global climate alliances and shifting corporate commitments. The global banking industry's ambitious Net Zero Alliance has reportedly shut down, with nearly 150 members dropping out. This follows an election cycle where political rhetoric has shifted dramatically, particularly around energy policy. The financial engine. This move signals a profound recalibration of climate risk in the financial sector. What this tells us is that the commitment to green finance is faltering under political pressure and, critically, the economic reality of the transition. Banks are moving away from an alliance that might constrain their ability to finance traditional energy projects, which are still, quite frankly, very profitable. How it affects the consumer. Energy costs and innovation. A retreat from unified net zero commitments could slow the transition to sustainable energy, keeping consumers exposed to the volatility of global oil and gas markets, which we saw spike recently due to geopolitical events. The cost of energy from your electricity bill to the gasoline in your tank remains highly vulnerable, and the path to a more stable, cheaper energy future has just become murkier and more dependent on individual corporate decisions rather than a unified financial front. And now, for the latest news from the City of Angels, I turn the broadcast over to Janine Holcomb with your Los Angeles local news. Janine?
Thank you, Toby. Good evening, Los Angeles. I am Janine Holcomb, and here are the top 5 local news events dominating the conversation right now. 1. Chevron refinery fire and expected gas price hike. A massive explosion and fire erupted at the Chevron oil refinery in El Segundo last night. While all workers have been accounted for and the fire is contained, this incident is expected to have an immediate and unwelcome financial impact. Analysts warn that the disruption in the local refining capacity will likely spark a quick jump in prices at the gas pump across the entire LA area. 2. Sean Diddy Combs sentenced music mogul. Sean Diddy Combs has been sentenced in a high-profile case. He was sentenced to more than 4 years in prison on prostitution-related charges, following his conviction 3 months ago. This concludes a lengthy and public legal saga that has dominated national and local headlines. 3. Government shutdown halts. Local military airshow presence. The ongoing federal government shutdown is hitting local events. The highly anticipated Pacific Air Show in Huntington Beach has been forced to halt the participation of all U.S. military planes and personnel, including high-profile jet teams and flyovers, due to the lack of federal funding. 4. Local investigation. Teen's death in D4VD's Tesla. The mysterious death of teenager Celeste Rivas, who was found deceased in the Tesla of musician D4VD, remains a top story. A private investigator is now publicly questioning the circumstances of the teen's death, adding another layer of complexity to the ongoing investigation that has captivated the attention of the community. 5. Actor Tyrese Gibson arrested on animal cruelty charge. Actor Tyrese Gibson was arrested in Fulton County, Georgia, on an animal cruelty charge following a neighbor's complaint that his dogs had killed the neighbor's pet. This incident has led to his booking and is being closely followed by local media. That is your local news roundup for Los Angeles. Stay blessed, and may God bless all of His people wherever they at.